Patrick, I just saw your comment. You said, tell us about your first love. Oh, gosh. Well, I don't know. I mean, what do you consider a first love? There's so many firsts. Like, the first person I had a crush on when I was a kid, like the first movie actor or something like that, or do you mean like my first boyfriend? Do you mean the first guy I ever kissed? There's a lot of firsts. First love, mean the first person that I really truly loved. Like, you know, as a grown-ass adult, I look back and think of all the times I thought I was in love, but really, knowing now what I know about life and love, you know, it's like, well, there were people I thought I loved, but I didn't really. Well, I can tell you, here, I'll tell you the story. This is a good one. This is one of my favorites. I'll tell you the story of my first kiss. Because it's not exactly my first boyfriend, but it happened before I had a boyfriend. It happened when I was in junior high. I think it was between 7th and 8th grade, so I was around 13 years old. I was at a slumber party. That's not where the kiss occurred, but this is where it all begins. I was at a slumber party with some friends, and they were doing the usual girly chit chat, you know, what boys do you like, what boys have you kissed, blah 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 blah. And I really didn't have anything to offer because I had never kissed a boy yet, right? So a friend of mine and we went off on our own, just the two of us, and we were talking about it, and she says, you know, I've never kissed anyone. I said, neither have I. And she's like, but what if they start asking us about kissing boys? It's like, I don't want them to think that I'm, you know, lame and I've never kissed anyone. And I said, I think I will just lie. And she says, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I'll just lie and say I kissed some boy named Chris at Disneyland. Because that's someone that they'll never know. They would never be able to confirm or deny. You know, I made up a lie. So anyway, we went back to the slumber party and nobody asked us anything. I never had to use the lie. It's fine. Fast forward a month or so later, my parents were taking us to Disneyland because we lived in Southern California and I loved Disneyland and my parents loved Disneyland, and we would usually go there about once a year when I was a kid. So they're going to do a family trip to Disneyland, me and the siblings, but, you know, I was 13, and my siblings were much younger than me. My siblings were, at that time, if I was 13, they would have been 3 and 6, maybe. So they were much littler than me. And my parents said, well, we know that you're a 13-year-old, you don't really want to hang out with your baby siblings, so why don't you bring a friend? So I said, okay, and I got a friend to come with us to Disneyland. All right, fine. So we go to Disneyland, and I and the friend are allowed to wander off on our own together because, you know, we're 13, it's Disneyland, where are we going to go? We're not going to get in any trouble. You know, my parents just said, hey, meet us back here on Main Street at 6 o'clock or whatever. So we're like, okay, and we take off. And we're running around, riding the rides, doing our thing. And then we got in line for Space Mountain. And that's a very long line because it was a very popular ride. And so we're waiting. And, you know, in Disneyland, the lines wind around outside. And then you go inside and they wind around inside. And you're just kind of standing around for half an hour or whatever, waiting in line. And there was a family right in front of us. It was a grandma and an older brother and 2 younger siblings. And so, you know, we're hanging out. I'm chatting with my friend. We start chatting with the other family that's in front of us. Well, the older sibling was a really cute guy. A little bit taller than me, which was rare because at that age, by the time I was 13, I was already like 5'8". I didn't get much taller. I'm 5'9" now, but I was already 5'8" at 13, so I was usually much taller than everyone else, including boys at that age. But this guy was taller than me, so that was nice. And he had kind of golden brown hair, you know, kind of shaggy 80s hair and blue eyes, really cute. And so we're waiting in line, we're chatting, and then we get up to Space Mountain finally, like, you know, because we're waiting in line forever, so we really get to talk a lot. We finally get up to Space Mountain, and my friend says, why don't you ride it with him? So I was like, I guess, because Grandma was going to ride with his siblings, and, you know, my friend was like, oh, I'll just ride with his little brother or whatever, and you ride with him. So we ride Space Mountain. And then we get off Space Mountain, and then my friend was like, why don't we go ride something else? And his grandma was so cool. His grandma was like, yeah, I'm just going to take the kids right over here to this little snack bar, and we'll hang out here if you want to go ride a few more rides with these kids that were your age. Like, she was kind of doing like my parents did. Like, I know you don't want to be around the little kids. You want to go hang out with this cute girl. She didn't say that, but, you know, like, that was the thing. She was like, yeah, go ride a couple more rides with these nice kids, and I'll just take the little kids over here, and we'll wait for you. So she takes the little kids off to go get snacks or treats or whatever, and my friend goes, oh, I think I have to go use the bathroom or something, or, you know, I'll go get snacks with Grandma, and just bolts and just leaves me with the guy, right? So it's just me and the guy. Well, turns out, guess what his name is? His name is Chris. So we rode another ride that was there in Tomorrowland, some kind of slow moving, I don't remember, it's not even there anymore. It's a ride that I think they took out and replaced with Star Tours. I think it was called Journey Within or something. I don't remember, but it was this kind of ride that you just sit in the little car and it just kind of rolls around. And so we sat in this little ride. Didn't have much of a line because the ride sucked. But he put his arm around me, right? And we sat and we rode the little ride, and then we got off the ride, and I said, well, it's getting kind of late, and I got to go back. We've got to go back and meet my parents at Main Street. And he said, well, I'll walk you over there. So he walked us back to Main Street, and then right on the corner of Main Street, right near the top end of the little Victorian line of shops that they had right there, he stopped me and he thanked me for hanging out with him, and he thought I was cool and blah blah blah, and he kissed me. So that was the very first time I ever got kissed. So it turned out that what I had lied about a month earlier came true. I had said, I'll just say I kissed a guy named Chris at Disneyland, and it actually happened. So there you go. That was the very first time I ever kissed anyone in my entire life. And he was a really good kisser. So there you go. That's the story of Jules' first kiss. I got the guy's address, or he got my address or whatever. We wrote letters. He was living in Sacramento, which is far north in California. I think I was living in the Mojave Desert by then. So from the Mojave Desert to Sacramento was probably like an 8-hour drive. So I never saw him again. I don't remember what his last name was. But we exchanged letters a few times. Because that was back in the day before email or texting or anything like that. And it was even back before there was free long distance calling. So we didn't phone each other because that would have cost a lot of money. So, you know, but we wrote letters a couple of times and then just kind of stopped writing because life goes on. I have no idea if I was the first person he ever kissed or not. But I'll tell you, he was so good at it, I would find it hard to believe that he hadn't kissed someone before. Or maybe he was just naturally good at it. Some people are. Patrick says, awesome. Good, I'm glad you liked that story.